Maya Manny, costume designer for Batwoman. CW series focuses on Batwoman and her mission to seek justice in Gotham City. Maya, I wanted to start there. Season two, obviously, you have a new Batwoman, new actress playing Batwoman, new character playing Batwoman. So, can you talk about, I guess, how you decided to differentiate the Batwoman costume between Kate and Ryan for season two?
Well, Javicia Leslie is obviously a very different actress. She brings a new perspective to the role and a different physicality. She was a track runner. She was in the army in real life. I'm not her character. So I wanted to showcase her physical strength by changing the costume and really not embellishing, but celebrating her physicality.
That's great.
We
So,
did
yeah.
we did actually. I had because like season one, the bat suit was designed by Colleen Atwood, the original bat suit, and yes, it did evolve over the season, but really we stayed true to the original concept. But we also in the pilot saw Batman, and in order to make Batman, I had to look at Batwoman because that she would have made her costume out of his costume. So who knew superheroes could sew? I mean, it's amazing. So I kept little parts of the original bat suit and moved it along.
And so when you were making this suit for Ryan and for Javicia, how did like to enhance that physicality or let that physicality shine? How did you go about like crafting the suit? Because obviously, like it needs to function. It needs to be something
Oh,
that she could actively, fight in and like move around in. So I guess how did you guys like work on that?
well, for one thing, I changed the materials. We changed where I put the stretch panels. I changed where the seams were. Uh, we made it into. I'm not a fan of one-piece suits just because they're really hard to work with. It's not that they can't be done, and there's many people who've been very successful with them. I just find for our stunt choreography, a two-piece suit works better. So that's the first thing I did is I made that suit two pieces. And it was designed in a way to emphasize her shoulders and show off her wee little waist because she has a wee little waist. Um, and also just allow her to move, to do all the things that Batwoman has to do. It is a
Yeah.
very physical role, after all.
Yeah, Javicia obviously is the first Black actress to play Batwoman in a live action DC property, I believe. And I obviously then there's that responsibility too to make like to kind of like reflect that I would imagine in the costume. I guess like how did you think about that and like that responsibility?
Well, the wig had to go. Like the original wig was, yeah, no, that was the first thing had to leave. And I think I added just more curves to it. Javicia has curves, so let's celebrate them. Let's, show them off. It's part of her strength, and it's
Yeah.
part of her being a woman of color and her physique. So that's where I went with it.
And
Plus, you can hide.
yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
no, sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say you can hide a multitude of things underneath that cape.
Right. And well, and you mentioned the wig too. I mean, can you talk about that evolution and like kind of like crafting the costume with the idea of having the wig in place? Because obviously that's such a big part of it.
Well, the wig, that's part of the character. That's part of
Right.
the original character as she was drawn in the comics. So one of the ways I approach a superhero is I will look at the comics and try and stay as close to that as possible, or at least pay homage to it.
Hmm.
Um, and that woman has red hair,
Hmm.
but the red hair that was the wig that was happening last season on Kate Kane just doesn't suit a woman of color. It doesn't acknowledge her culture or who she is. So yes, it had to go.
So you've been doing costumes obviously for the Arrowverse for a while. Like obviously, and you mentioned like looking at the original comic characters. I guess for you, how much of it is balancing, those original designs and the things that people know and like love about these superheroes with like being able to put in your own, spin on it and your own like kind of like thoughts and ideas.
Well, I think in the case of Batwoman in particular, Arrow as well, actually, now that I think of it, most of those characters, they're not magical. They didn't come from outer space. They're not, um, supposed to be real human beings fighting crime. So I have always taken a very grounded approach to how I approach costuming. And in Batwoman's case, yeah, she's not magical. So her suit had to be relatable. And this season, I wanted her to be able to put on her suit by herself in reality, and also to be able to put on her cape and take off her cape and have those pieces be functional rather than having two dressers, get you into your costume. I think it's all part of how she gets her Batwoman swag on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
the other, you mentioned this before, kind of joking, but like if like they're not like magical characters, so like they have to have created the suit somehow. And I guess how much of that is like when you're doing this is like, are they like, or how do you think about like how these suits are being created in the world of the show, right? Like, are like, do you ever think about that and like how to like, it can't be, I don't know, is it like they're not expert sewers, right? Obviously, or maybe they are, like you said. I mean, like, how do you think about that?
I laugh. Well, because we had a situation on Arrow where Thea ended up taking Roy's Arsenal costume and refashioning it to fit her, which that was to me, okay, overnight. That's the part I really like, is it always happens overnight. And same with this one, she changed the Batwoman costume and it was hers overnight. Or maybe not even overnight. I think it might have been in a couple of hours. So I know that Tyler Heron on Flash, the production designer of Flash, he actually put a sewing machine in one of the sets.
That's wild.
But as far as, I mean, that's what part of the reason why I try and reuse some of the same components, or at least the style lines of some of the same components, because otherwise, where did she come up with it?
Right.
It has to make some sense. And I guess as far as how I approach it, in the end, it's really just my opinion. That's it.
Right.
I do try and pay respects to the original, but then I, riff on it.
Right. You had a lot of other costumes this season too, obviously. Like lo-fi kind of stuff, like Wolf Spider. I guess, like, can you talk about like, getting to build out beyond all of those, like, beyond the Batwoman costume, like you're filling up a whole world, I guess, and like, can you talk a little about that?
Well, Wolf Spider was he was a gymnast. He's a gymnast. And when that character first came about, Caroline Dries said, well, no, he's literally in a spandex suit. Like, really? Like, really? Okay. So he's in a spandex suit, and no, it doesn't protect him. It does nothing for him other than allow him to move around. But that's what he chose to wear.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I get, yeah. For you, like, I mean, like your history, like, what is your earliest memory of, like, you obviously done, like we said, like all these Arrowverse costumes and like kind of like really put a stamp on, I think, like certainly modern superhero costumes on television for sure. I mean, what is your background with like, what was your first memory of seeing superheroes on television or experiencing like the genre, I guess? I'd love to hear about that. And from a costume standpoint as well. Yeah.
Adam West. Right.
Yeah.
We didn't read comic books in our house. It was not something that, yeah, it didn't happen. So I remember coming home from school, probably dating myself here. We were allowed one bottle of pop on Saturdays, one, and I would save it and I would drink my pop and I would watch Batman. That's my first one, and Eartha Kitt and all those fabulous actors, like really, Cesar Romero. There you go. That's dating me.
No, I mean, I watched them too, though, in reruns, and they were the costumes are memorable still, though, to this day. I still think people know the Adam West Batman costume and the Cesar Romero Joker and all those different things. Yeah, and it's pretty. Yeah. No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, so and then after that, I worked on a pilot for a show, and it was about really lame superheroes. So there was one person who could freeze things, but all he could really do is make ice cubes. So he was hired for parties, and someone else would fade out, but they didn't really, so parts of them would still show. So that was my next superhero thing. So
yeah, and now you get to put Batwoman on screen, and maybe 40 years from now, whatever it is, people still might be looking at those costumes. It's got to be pretty rewarding, I would imagine, right, for you?
It's fabulous. And I have to say, the first time I got sent a piece of Lego, and it was the Atom costume. And that to me was like, wow, there's Lego. That's fantastic. But I mean, it's great. We have a lot of kids from Make-A-Wish come by. We did on Arrow, and they would jump around the stunt room. I'd give them rubber weapons and try and dress them up. And it was fabulous. It was, to me, that was pretty incredible.
Maya Manning, thank you so much. Batwoman season 2 on CW. Thank you. And stick around. We'll do the roundtable panel at the end here, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.